Shortly before PAX East, Supergiant Games, the studio behind Bastion and Transistor, announced Pyre, their new fantasy RPG that's set to be released on Windows and PlayStation 4 in 2017. During PAX, I went hands-on with the game and can honestly say that Pyre is worth keeping an eye on. The premise of Pyre is that you've been banished to the downside, a strange, sad purgatory not for ordinary sins, it seems, but for political prisoners. At least, that's how it appears. During the demo, it really wasn't made clear how you wound up in the downside, but it is clear that your character is literate in a world in which reading is a crime. At the start of the game, a party of mysterious masked characters happens upon you. You could reveal to them that you know how to read, but the game warns that such an action may have less than pleasant consequences. Ever the daredevil, I told them that I could read. From that point on, they welcomed me into their caravan and revealed that beneath their masks, they were relatively normal people. At least, Hedwyn was an ordinary, optimistic fellow who seemed particularly eager to help. The other two characters were a mighty horned warrior, Jodariel, and a mustachioed weasel? Fox? I never quite determined what sort of mammal rookie the third-party member was, though he is referred to as a cur, which makes him some sort of canine. After I was welcomed into the party, they put my reading skills to work, and I set to reading a mysterious book regarding the rights, a sort of competition that can grant one freedom from the downside. Upon reading a passage, I was suddenly in control of the strange trio of travelers as they were dropped into an arena and the game's tutorial thus began. The rights were underway. Essentially, there are two teams of 3 players. One of these teams is the player-controlled team that goes up against the AI, the other team. The goal is to take a glowing orb to the enemy team's Pyre, the flame that sits at their side of the arena, while protecting your own Pyre from a similar attack. It sounds simple enough, but there's a bit of a catch. You can only control one character at a time. The rule applies to the AI as well, of course, though the AI's got a bit of an advantage since switching tasks is something that computers tend to excel at. Now, characters in this game attack by shooting off energy from their auras, fields of energy that surround them. Whilst one of your characters bears the orb, your character is vulnerable to attack by the enemy team. If your character is hit by the enemy's aura, it drops the orb and is temporarily knocked out of the game. As soon as one of your characters has the orb, there's no getting rid of it, unless you lose a character to the enemy, or actually take it into the Pyre and score some points against the enemy team. You can, however, toss the orb between members of your own team. The game has an interesting approach to keeping things fair. When one of your characters takes the orb into the Pyre, that character is removed from play for a turn. You then have to play defensively against the enemy team's 3 players with your remaining 2. If you can carefully whittle down their numbers a bit, you can get the orb into their Pyre, but it will prove difficult. In the demo I played, my 3 characters could each run around the arena at different speeds. It was necessary to play to their strengths in order to win the demo. While the rights make up the meat of the gameplay in Pyre, that's not all there is to the game. During the demo, I got a peek into the story of Pyre and have to say that I'm fascinated. What sort of dystopic world banishes people to the downside for being able to read? Who are these mysterious travelers and what are their crimes? In between the rights, you travel from location to location with the caravan and you're presented with more options. Sometimes the road will fork and you can pick a route, and along the way you may find yourself presented with more choices to make. Go scavenging for supplies or spend some time trying to learn about the downside in your party. During the demo, I was given the chance to train a character. I picked Jodariel and I improved some of her statistics. I sort of focused on Jodariel during the demo as my character wound up having a conversation with her. She asked if I found her intimidating, and I admitted that I did, at least a little bit. She seemed to take it in stride in her response, but the game revealed that she had lost a little bit of hope. Mechanically speaking, I'm not sure what function hope plays in the game. Perhaps the finished game will have some sort of morale system in place? Aesthetically, Pyre is already awesome. For a game about being banished to a dark, sad purgatory, it's quite colorful. As is usual with Supergiant's games, it has a vibrant look and well-animated characters. I didn't see a whole lot of the world, but the demo was quite brief, and the background art and characters that I did see looked fantastic. Of course, the game sounded great as well. It featured some voice work by Logan Cunningham, who was the Archjustice, the announcer during the rights, in the game. The music of the game is noteworthy as well. Darren Korb's score is lonely, forlorn, and atmospheric. We do know a few things about where Pyre is going. The free characters introduced in the demo aren't the only playable characters in the game. You're bound to run into more exiles in the downside in the full version of Pyre once it's finished. It's up to you to rescue exiles from the downside through the rites. The thing is, you're not going to be able to take everybody. Overall, I had a great time with Pyre, and I'm looking forward to seeing where Supergiant takes it. What do you think about Pyre? Did you see it at PAX East? Sound off below or hit us up and follow at Blackman and Robin for all the latest game news, reviews, previews, and interviews. Follow me at Jordan_Cameron for my own views. Also, be sure to check out our interview with Supergiant Games for a more in-depth look at the making of Pyre.